Again, I'm Sandra Shields, and I am a certified safety specialist, and I bring with me 18 years of general industry, construction, risk management, and insurance work into this industry. I voted yes, and my brother, who's an Oakland County Sheriff Deputy, and my father, who's an Oakland County Sheriff Deputy, also voted no. So it was a house divided. I made it my mission to make sure that everyone stays safe in every community across Michigan. So I've developed programs for the community as a community outreach, all the way through the process, delivery. I have a program for everyone, and there is nothing in this industry that I can't make safe. So we're going to talk about a few things on this journey as we go forward together in this industry. So why are we here? We are here to keep people safe. Everyone in this room has concerns, questions, things that we want to talk about. There's uncertainties that we want to discuss. And we need to do that in a tactical, fact-based, non-emotional way, which is what can be harrowing in this industry, as we all come in with different levels of risk. You know, what I may want to do, somebody may say, well, I would never do that, that's too risky. Everybody's level of risk is different. And I'm going to bring a tool that we can kind of level the playing field. Because we all live with risk, we live with it every day. We all have a 4 to 6% chance of getting into a catastrophic event that we cannot avoid. I call that the meteorite effect. Sitting here in this room, we could have a meteorite fall through the room and just blow the room apart. And we cannot avoid that. But we can look for it. We can monitor the skies, we can check with NASA. There are things we can do to monitor and watch for these incidents, which is what I'm going to teach you to do. So risk, what is it? It is the possibility of loss or harm or an exposure or a chance that something catastrophic or uncertain can occur. And the only way we can avoid that is we can assess it. To assess it, we have to understand what the risks are. So we need work groups, we need community members, we need folks to sit around a round table and talk about the things that are concerns. And then we put that on a table. There are 5 steps to safety and risk. First, you want to stand back and you want to take a good 30,000-foot view of the situation. What is real and what is an emotional fear? What can we do to step in and to reduce that exposure to risk? We can plan for it, and that's how we keep people safe. And I did bring some risk assessments here today that I prepared for the city of Port Huron that was, still is going through the process of opting in, opting out. There's a lot of concerns. I do have some copies with me. If you'd like to have a copy, I can send you an electronic one as well. But I did bring some here today to show you a little bit about what we're talking about. When we use the tools for control for risk assessment, we put it on a very basic table. And it goes from a remote chance, that's probably not very likely, to a very likely chance. And then we go the opposite direction with the impact, with what that impact of the risk is. Is it going to be minor or is it going to be catastrophic? So we try to plan based on the frequency of the event and the severity of the event if we move forward. And that is where we can place everybody's emotions on the same level, because we can quantify the risk. We're not guessing, we're not acting on emotion. We have information and absolute data. So emotions can be subjective, but they're real. We have a flight or fight response that's natural, that all of our experiences independently tell us whether we should stay in a situation or whether we should leave. And those are personal and independent to each of us. So we have to respect those, but we can deal with those and we can move forward. So there's 2 basic decision-making routes. We have system 1, which is your emotions. When we react quickly, fast. It's an instinct. Sometimes it's unconscious. We have 2, which is conscious thinking. It's slow, it's precise, it's intentional, and it's reliable. We talk about cannabis. Cannabis, well, I thought it was marijuana. So where does that come from anyways? Back in the Prohibition days, we were given a lot of propaganda 8 years ago, more. And it was a plant that was being used and consumed in the general population. And it couldn't be controlled because anybody could grow it, anybody could use it, and there was no way that the government could control the taxation of it during a time of alcohol prohibition, when many people turned to cannabis or marijuana as an alternative to alcohol. It was something that you could create and make at home. So the government very quickly spit out propaganda to instill fear, to control the population away from this. But why would they want to have propaganda? What difference does it make anyway? It's just taxes that they can't collect, right? Good ideas don't often need convincing. The real reason cannabis is illegal is meet Harry Anslinger. This is the head of the DEA of 1930. When he was the individual during the alcohol prohibition, they often found that cannabis was carried on the immigrants who would come over to work, farm workers. Mexicans would come across the border, and they would have this. Marijuana is what they called it. It was part of their culture. They used it in ceremonies, and it was part of their family and who they were. And because it came across and it was associated with the immigrant workers, that's where we get the H in the marijuana, is the government tried to create this propaganda and make it seem exotic or something that we should fear, something from another country, something that's unknown. So they changed the name to marijuana with an H. And nowhere in the biology of the plant does it even reference it. It's cannabis sativa and then off of that. So it was really the government that tried to control our mindset and develop this propaganda. And what happens is that we're indoctrinated with this information from our parents, our grandparents. Well, it's bad, it's bad. The government says it's bad, it's gotta be bad for us. So we don't want it. So here we are today, 80 years past prohibition, and we've decided that this is a new industry that's going to flourish and it's going to grow, and everybody in this room has an opportunity in this new industry. Everybody brings skills that are valuable to this industry, and I'll show you exactly where in a few minutes. But why do we want to give weed a fair shake anyways? Well, because we have an opportunity right now to undo all of that propaganda and all of that negative effect on the individuals that were targeted with that propaganda. We can undo and give back to the community, and we can start over, and we can do things the right way. We can be good neighbors, as Nate told us. He's doing great things with his company in the community, and that's a part of the expectation now, is that cannabis businesses don't just come to your community and then be a business. They become your community. They live and breathe with your community. It's made up of your community, and your community decides what you want to do with that and where you're going to take it. This is an example of one of the clients that I'm working with in Grand Rapids, and we are required to do an equity program where we assess crime and impact. Specifically, that's one thing that I did. It's called the SUPTED. It's crime prevention through environmental design, which means that you look at the physical aspects of the building and you design away opportunity for injuries, incidents, crime, lingering corners, dark areas, things like that. But what we also do is we give back to the community. There's a $2,500 scholarship award for a patron, an employee, or a family member of an employee for each location that they're opening. They're doing some additional funding. They're doing expungement processes. We're giving training opportunities to people who are young workers, new integrated into the community workers, or reintroduced to the community. They're doing an opportunity fund. So there's a lot of things, and every employee that works at this provisioning center will be giving volunteer time into the community, beautification. Each employee will spend 6 to 8 hours a week giving back to the community that the company will pay them for. So what will cannabis business look like? Does anybody think this is the expectation? Does anybody fear this is what your town will look like? Yes, there are businesses out there that look like this, but I'm just kidding. These unsightly type of businesses many times started out as an illegal operation and they had no oversight. This is what a business looks like. And you saw Nate's, very similar, very industrial, very clean, very aesthetically pleasing. It's an improvement of the property. Here you can was a 2-story duplex that had, on the right, a small frontage of business. They totally redesigned the frontage, kept the remainder of the structure, added green space to the side and the front, and make it a more approachable, better working business. This looks nicer going through the streets as well. From the inside, the cannabis businesses and the retail aspect are moving toward what we like to call the Apple Store image. Very clean, very minimal. There's examples in these tables, and then you would meet with a person who would take your order, discuss it, consult with you, get your product, and move on. Now, the average transaction only takes 7 minutes or less. So these people aren't lingering, traffic is moving very quickly, people are in and out very quickly. And here's an example of a business plan. The floor plan, the actual flow of how people move through the facility. Each doorway has an electronic card reader that some doors open both front and back with a card, some just open in with a card. But every room is subsected and divided separate from each other. There's 24/7 security monitoring. There's hidden TV cameras. There is live interactive security to where if somebody presses a button, they have immediate help. We also work very closely with the local law enforcement. So every month a report will go out, observational report, incident report, things like that, to make sure that that septet hasn't been changed or the impact of the business isn't affecting the community in any negative way. So security is very defined in this industry, and in fact, it makes the community safer, as you heard Nate say. That is 100% true. Nobody wants to commit crimes knowing that there's a closed circuit camera every 20 feet that's concealed, that you don't know where it's at, you don't know how to cover it up, you can't disengage it. And everybody is trained with procedures. Many times these operations do have live security folks inside the business that help check in folks into the lobby. And this is very similar to what this looks like. This is actually a business in Walled Lake, Michigan, but it's very clean, it has a sort of spa-type aesthetic to it. And this one is Diego Pellissier. This one is in Seattle, Washington. I had the pleasure of touring this facility, and it was incredible. It looked like a Spanish villa. They had live palm trees inside. It was just very aesthetically pleasing. They had waterfalls, they had music. It was beautiful. And then this is what the average provisioning center may look like. They're opting in for a boutique look, a spot feel, very clinical type environment, some of them may be, or you might think of a fine cigar humidor. Think of some urban chic design. When this is where the industry came from. The industry was born out of illicit activity. We didn't have the benefit of oversight, education, regulatory authorities. So folks did what they knew how to do best, and that was just grow. But at the same time, they're exposing themselves to fire hazards, poor air quality, explosions, electrical wiring such as this. Now, if this was an illegal grow operation that was in a home very close to yours, and these things were going on in the basement 24/7, unmanned, and you knew about them, you would be concerned that there was no oversight. Okay? The legal industry brings oversight and safety. The legal industry is the way forward, and it's good for risk. Essentially, risk comes from not knowing what you're doing. And when we think about this as being a brand new industry, we get concerned. We have fears. So I want you to know that the cannabis industry is more than a plant. It is all of us. And this wheel here shows everybody where you can land in the cannabis industry. Let's see, health and safety, I'm up here in resources. But if you're in human resources, distribution, finance, management, security, equipment, consumer goods, everybody can touch this industry, and everybody can sort of grow their own skill set and industry by supporting the cannabis industry. There's a lot of opportunity. They need every single thing every other business needs. So it's an idea that starts with a plant, but really it's a community and it's an entire industry. So what are some risks that come along with cannabis? I don't want you to think that I'm just a blue sky supporter. So marijuana can kill people. You can eat a handful of it and you can choke to death. That's a real thing. A heavy crate of marijuana could fall on you and you could be crushed. That could happen. You could slip on a baggie of marijuana and break your skull. You could come across a serial killer whose name is marijuana. These are ways that you can die. Smoking it? No, you can't. You would have to consume almost 100 times your own body weight in order to become toxic, and that's just nearly impossible. So what will the cannabis business look like in your community? I want you to think about the things when we get to the question and answer time that genuinely concern you. Things that you are worried about. And don't feel like you need to hold back on those, because I have a lot of experience, and believe me, I trust that everybody's risk has value. So if you have a concern, let's talk about it, and I will try to put some controls in place and let you know that we can do these things and go forward safely. There's a lot of regulatory support, a lot of ongoing compliance audits, and there's a lot of investment in these businesses that people don't want to risk by losing them. I've also included some references on here. They're hard to read, so if you'd like an electronic copy, I'll give that to you. Some of it is the licensing application requirements. They are very in-depth. And each city has the decision to make these applications as comprehensive as you like. If you as Whitmore Lake want to say, yeah, we will allow your business to come in here, but you're going to give us a scholarship fund, you're going to give beautification committee some hours, you're going to do some equity outreach, you're going to make it look like we want it to look. So you have a choice to put into what those applications, what those businesses have to do in order to be a member of your community. So think about those questions and we'll talk about them at the end.